for the fact that apparently there was a big controversy surrounding Monday Night Raw prior to Monday Night Raw, prior to everything that transpired on that show. Apparently, I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of a WWE show. They were scheduled, they were booked to be in the main event of Monday Night Raw. According to reports online, they were scheduled to have a six-pack challenge or gauntlet match where they were going to determine the number one contender to Bianca Belair's Raw Women's Championship. And due to creative differences, they weren't really happy with what was going to go down during that match. Now, other reports state that Sasha Banks and Naomi were scheduled to have an interaction or have a match with their future challengers for the tag team titles and the brand new team of Doudrop and Nikki ASH. Neither of those two have been confirmed, apparently. Not to my knowledge. If I'm mistaken, go ahead and correct me in the comment section below. But all of this seems to be in terms of creative. Apparently, the boss, Sasha Banks and Naomi, the current tag team champions, they got wind of what was about to happen, what was about to go down at Monday Night Raw. And apparently, they didn't like the direction that their characters were heading in terms of WWE TV. And so they walked straight into the head of relations office for WWE, Mr. John Laurinaitis. And according to reports, again, this is all pretty much hearsay. They left the tag team titles there and they walked out of Monday Night Raw. And the writers of Raw and everybody involved with producing the show on Monday night had to rewrite the show and had to come up with, I believe it was Becky Lynch versus Asuka. That turned out to be the main event of Monday Night Raw. But again, there's a lot of controversy out here because WWE has only released a statement in terms of what transpired during Monday Night Raw. In that statement, they stated that Sasha Banks and Naomi were informed that they were to have a main event match, that they were advertised for the main event match against two or more opponents that they had worked with before in the past, and they had shown no difficulty working with in the past. And apparently, Sasha Banks and Naomi took it into their own matters, and they left. They walked out of the company. They left. They took off, resulting in WWE having to reschedule, rewrite, and pretty much, in this statement, apologize to the WWE Universe and to whoever bought a ticket to that show on Monday Night Raw because the advertised main event match involving the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions did not take place. Since then, the WWE has not put out an official statement on what's going to happen with the Women's Tag Team Championships, on what's going to happen with Sasha Banks and with Naomi. Current reports state that they are not present for SmackDown tonight. So, yeah, it's been 4 or 5 days, tons of hours, tons of speculation from fans, tons of backstage reports and rumors of what might happen, what might be the reasoning, which side do you take. I'm sure a lot of you wrestling fans out there have already picked sides. And the issue with this is that much like a few months ago when Mustafa Ali asked for his release from the company and was denied his release from the company, when there was some creative differences on their part, and Mustafa Ali did not want to participate with whatever creative direction they thought his character was supposed to head onto. A lot of fans took sides back then. But again, the thing here is, the main dilemma here is that neither WWE or Sasha Banks or Naomi are in the wrong. They are both in the absolute right. And the reasoning behind this is very, very simple. The WWE is a sports entertainment company. They're a business. They have a structure. They're famously and infamously called by the IWC, they're called the Machine for a reason. Meaning that you know how things go down in WWE. There might be some kind of turmoil. There might be some kind of chaos like there is everywhere else. Because sometimes you can't help that from happening. But overall, there's a structure, there's a direction, and there's always one guy, one man in charge and calling the shots when it comes to WWE. So, if WWE is about to make a creative direction, a creative decision in terms of where they want this story to go, that's what they're going to do. That's where they're going to go. Now, they might be able to tweak it. They might be able to modify it to fit the competitor if the competitor or the superstar in question has some kind of pull backstage, which I would assume Sasha Banks would have, but overall, WWE works in a certain way that doesn't allow for things to just be ripped out of the blue and just be rewritten other than by the express direction, by the express mandate of current WWE CEO and chairman of the board, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So that's how WWE structures things. That's how they work things out. And then you have the case of Sasha Banks and Naomi, who are contracted by WWE. They are paid. They are given a certain lump amount of money for their services in WWE, even though they are positioned as independent workers. They are still considered WWE employees, and as such, most of the time, they should follow whatever WWE asks them to do, asks them to perform. That should be the case. They should be able to just say, yes, I'll do what you want me to do. I work for you. This is how this company works. Let's go ahead and do this. On the other hand, like I said, Sasha Banks and Naomi, they're human beings. They're independent workers working for the WWE. If they don't want to do something, there's nobody in hell that's going to force them to do something. So if they have creative differences, if they're not feeling well, if they just want to walk out of the company, they are completely within their right to do so, because that's just how this type of stuff, this type of job, and pretty much any job, works. If you don't want to do something, you can't be forced into doing something at that time and at that moment, and that's what Sasha Banks and Naomi did. Now, with that said, WWE can take legal action depending on their contracts or how their contracts are structured with Sasha Banks and Naomi. Will they? I doubt it, because like I said, these two superstars in particular, Sasha Banks and Naomi, they are big merchandise sellers, big merchandise movers for WWE. Vince McMahon knows that. Every single fan out there knows that. And they also know that if they were to take legal action, if they were to fire or release Sasha Banks and Naomi from their contracts, yes, they would both be under 90-day no-compete clauses from being able to go someplace else. But you bet your bottom dollar, you bet your ass that after those 90 days are up, AEW specifically is going to come knocking and trying to strengthen their subpar women's division. And Sasha Banks and Naomi, they're top-tier talents that can move business for you and that they can perform in that ring. So again, on that point, just on that point, WWE that's why they're being cautious in terms of what do they do with this situation. Apparently, there's also rumors that both Naomi and Sasha Banks' contracts may be coming up, and that they were in talks to renew and re-up those deals. So, what they did on Monday night might have just complicated all of those talks. So, like I said, they both had rights in terms of doing what they did. WWE can fire them because of what they do. There's no problem about that, but there will be repercussions in the very near future if they do so, and that's not something that WWE wants. And Sasha Banks and Naomi, they're not happy. They're not content with the creative direction. Okay, you're performers, you're workers, you work for the WWE. You can go someplace else. You can go to Impact Wrestling, you can go to AEW, you can go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and have some sort of creative direction if you want. But the platform that WWE offers you, the money that WWE offers you, the opportunities that WWE offers you, and the quality of life, the quality of career that WWE offers you, you won't find anywhere else. So they also have to think about that. Now, there are a lot of fans out there who are pretty much just stating that fire them. Fire them. That's not something that they should have done. Or they're completely in their right to be able to walk out of WWE if that's not what they want to do. And like I said, they are completely correct in that matter. But, again, WWE is also within their right to take legal action, to fire them, to keep them on a contract, to freeze their contract until they start performing just like they've done in the past with Mustafa Ali, with Neville, and with many, many more in the past. WWE is completely within their right. And the last thing WWE, Sasha Banks, Naomi, everyone involved, and wrestling fans want is for this to get worse, for this to get even more ugly. So with that said, I'm hoping this comes to a conclusion very, very soon. There are also rumors that WWE might just retire the Women's Tag Team Championships, which wouldn't be that far of a stretch because, like I said, there isn't much competition in that Women's Tag Team division. There's 1, 2, or maybe even 3 just thrown together tag teams currently in the division, and from that point, you can understand why Sasha Banks and Naomi might be upset that they haven't been able to build that division, or WWE hasn't been wanting to put that division up as a priority when you got 2 of your biggest stars as champions, and that the direction that they're taking a month and a half after winning those tag titles at WrestleMania, it hasn't been the best. So with that said, what do you think about this entire situation? Do you think it's going to get resolved anytime soon? Are you hoping it gets resolved anytime soon? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below.